Welcome. I haven't seen any guests, but we'll welcome them if they're there. We are meeting here for the October 1st Fire Adaptive Community Committee meeting. And if you would stand and let's repeat the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And the roll call, Madam Secretary.
Pardon? Oh. Mike Overby,
Here.
David Hartson. Here. Don Clark.
Here.
Hey, Scott Schaefer. Vicki Lannon.
Here.
Mark Manley.
Here.
And Ray Honey.
Here.
Wow, got a full house.
And we don't have Scott.
Oh, that's right, Scott. Forgot about Scott. Okay, at least we have a quorum.
I think that's Charles Fiedler.
Oh, and we have a guest, Charles Fiedler. Thank you, Charles, for joining us. Charles has been to a number of our meetings and the council meetings, but he's got a deep and rich background in what we're talking about with all the topics here with slash and so forth. So we're welcome you, Charles. And do you have any comments as a guest?
No, thank you. Just listening.
Okay.
Curious.
Okay. Okay, approval of agenda. Everybody received the agenda, and do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written or changes?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
1 second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so there are no other audience members from where I can see. So approval of the minutes for the September 4th meeting. I assume everybody has received that.
Number 11.
Okay, I guess I wrote, yeah, that was the earlier week. We changed it to the 11th. Sorry about that. September the 11th. Motion to accept those minutes?
I can't because I wasn't there.
Okay.
I'll second.
David.
Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, old business. Do we have a slash disposal report?
Hello, everyone. I'm Chief Vance. We have been working really heavy on getting equipment transferred over. The Streets has donated the services of one of their large front-end loaders over to the slash program. So we now have 2 front-end loaders in anticipation of being able to process more slash throughout the winter, take care of all the backlog and that large pile that we've been working on. We're going to start chipping away at that. I do have some current numbers. But we just satisfied that today. So we did take possession of that loader today, as well as one of the skid steers. This month, in the month of September, we had 1,474 cubic yards of slash being brought in. We burned about 300 yards of that. So we're going to continue to work on that backlog and that large slash pit throughout the winter. As of today, we stopped picking up slash, and those slash pickups, we're gonna, if we have anything that's remaining that has already been requested, we'll continue to satisfy those. But we are no longer taking slash permits beyond October 1st.
Okay.
Awesome.
So Chief, the October 1st was an arbitrary number. Some winters, our winters start early October. Some winters, we get an Indian summer, we're good till Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir.
Is there any consideration? And I know a lot of people already headed back to Texas, so I'm sure your permits have declined anyway. But I always wondered why, because it's easier to pick up slash into November some years than it is in May, because then sometimes winter lingers up here. So it's just a consideration. I mean, I know you just draw a line and you say we're gonna stop doing it, but
Yeah.
the goal all along is to encourage people to thin their property. So it's just a thought.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's easiest to thin that out at the end of summer and into fall. Couldn't agree with you more.
Right.
And in future years, we can consider extending that into the late seasons, depending on the summer we've had or what have you.
Right.
So thank you for that point.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way you can continue it this year? Because they're talking the next 7 to 8 days, higher than warm temperatures and no snow.
I hadn't considered it, and oftentimes these things take planning and some logistics. So I haven't been asked until today, which is past the deadline that we've already published through our website and so forth. So on a case-by-case basis, we would consider if people wanted to continue to thin. I don't see there being a big issue. I think we can still receive drop-offs at the slash pit.
Oh,
We're
you
just not
can.
actively picking up.
Okay,
Oh, okay, you can still receive them.
I'm pretty sure, unless I'm speaking out of turn and I misunderstand the process, we're just not out picking up, doing the slash pickups in the neighborhood.
How
Unless they were on a backlog.
Okay.
how can they find out if they want to do drop-offs? How can we get that message to them until the snow flies?
I'll have to get back to you. I'll write a message as soon as I sit down and I'll figure that out for sure and I'll get right back to you.
Oh, good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Of course.
Okay, I guess the biggest and most time-consuming agenda item is the council request for an updated mission and objectives statement on a template that they provided us for our committee. And I provided the draft of that template. I think the rest of the C, D, and E won't take as much time. So we do have maybe more time. Whether or not we can complete that today or not will depend on our, I guess, how far we want to dig in and do that. So what I did was just, it's easier to edit or to modify a draft than it is to come up with new words, for a committee. So I took material out of earlier documents and grants. And does everybody have a copy of that exhibit that shows the boxes filled in?
I sent it out this afternoon, so
I got it. I got
it.
Is it possible there to have a copy of that made for everybody that's in the office there?
Which email I sent that to today?
Well, it should be in the meeting, shouldn't it?
Huh?
Isn't it in the meeting invitation, the exhibit? It's not. Oh, it's not. I don't believe
So
so.
Don, you have one?
Yes, I have one.
And
And I have one.
It
okay.
just came through a minute or two ago, though.
Well.
I got
okay.
mine about 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Well, anyone there, Charles, do you have a copy? I don't know if, I think
I
you're,
sent Charles one.
okay. Okay, well, if you have it, then my recommendation is we just go through it box by box, section by section. And again, the goal is to achieve a final document, and I'm not proud of my writing abilities. What's the old saying about whatever. So if you want to read the first.
Mike, a lot of these words came from past things that we edited together.
Yeah, the committee mission is what we already had in our earlier document. So does anybody see any needed changes given where we are now with the committee?
The committee mission or purpose. Does anyone have any comment on the committee mission or purpose? Mike took this from something that we had already talked about and worked on. Would anyone like to make some changes to this? The Fire Adaptive Community Committee was developed to address recommendations from the U.S. Forest Service Community Wildfire Protection Plan for the Village of Angel Fire. The committee will address action items from the CWPP plan initiatives with multiple related entities, assist in submitting grant proposals and implement actions that will improve the wildfire preparedness and prevention for years to come in the Angel Fire and Angel Fire and surrounding areas. The committee will also address related initiatives and make recommendations concerning the Angel Fire fuel ordinance and related / pickup and disposal in the village of Angel Fire. Do we have comments about that?
Hmm.
Does that sound like our mission? It sounds like it to me, but.
It
someone-
sounds like our mission, and that's what we should be
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, I'd like to add that,
Sure.
there needs to be, a year or something attached to which CWPP we're referring to.
2022.
Yeah, just because
Okay.
I don't, I'm, you know, there could be a new CWPP down the road, so just want to refer to the most
Excellent.
recent.
Excellent.
Okay, thanks.
Supposedly every 5 years, it's supposed to be updated, so.
Yeah, it was 2016 was the last one, so definitely we need to put 2022.
Okay,
Thank you, Mark.
sure.
Very good.
Well, continue on, Martha. You're doing a good job.
Time, commitment, and duration. The committee will meet each month on the first Tuesday of the month, unless Tuesday is a holiday or a day after a holiday, when the meeting will be held on Wednesday. As needed, the committee may have one or more working sessions each month to focus on and debate specific solutions, issues, and policy recommendations.
Okay, because of my business I do, is there any way that we can do like work sessions, set it up? If we're gonna do one, give us notice early so we can take time to come.
Yes, I think, so should we put that in there?
You know what I'm saying?
I do. We need more than just a few days.
That's right. And I always get a schedule from my office the first or the middle of the month. And then if I know when a work session's the next month, I can take that day off.
Mike,
Yes?
should we have something in there about giving lead time?
Um,
Or
Well,
should we
can
just
you-
be more considerate of the people here?
no, these would be scheduled, a minimum of 1 week in advance. We're gonna say that.
Will 1 week work, Vicky? Won't, will
I
it?
don't know. I can try and work it out.
Okay, because sometimes we just don't know, like before
Yeah.
we just, yeah,
May I add something?
sure.
There is a, there is a work session scheduled for the 15th of October, if that works.
They mean for the committee to have.
Oh, for their
own work
committee?
session.
Yeah.
I apologize. My bad.
Okay.
We haven't had that many work sessions. if I
We've had
recall.
2.
No.
Only 2. Only 2. So I think it's a matter of us just being as considerate as we can and scheduling those as far out as we can, because everyone here is really busy. Okay?
Good.
Members of the committee, we have that, as we all know. Other supporting individuals who regularly attend meetings, we have Chief Vance, Jake Crane, Lindsay Reed. Is Lindsay Reed going to
She
be
starts Monday, I think, doesn't she?
Monday?
The 7th, I think,
So she'll start attending.
correct. Charles
Charles Fiedler, do we want to add anyone else regularly attending? I know Brian Lindsay has been here quite often.
It's not required.
Not-
If you had, some of the other committees have interfaced with some of the state chapters. So Dark Sky, for instance, reached out to the New Mexico Dark Sky chapter, and some of their members have been attending those meetings. But if there's not another person, there's no requirement to add more.
Okay, so we won't add any
Good.
more at this time. So we move on to scope. The scope of the committee is to address recommendations from the U.S. Forest Service Community Wildfire Protection Plan 2022. Let's put that in there. For the village of Angel Fire. Initial focus areas are high priority recommendations listed in the CWPP and grants that will support the high priority areas. As such, priorities include creating database of community property owners, addresses, email, phone numbers, those sorts of things, contact. And use for resident communications regarding wildfire risk areas, potential wildfire notices in the area, recommendations regarding Angel Fire disposal of slash, recommendations regarding community fuel ordinance, communication, education of residents, property owners regarding the fuel ordinance, inspection of properties, and feedback and tracking of individual compliance with the fuel ordinance and recommendations to become compliant. We can maybe clean the wording up a little bit there. Recommendations to resident property owners of compliance with fuel ordinance and home hardening. Commentary
Can-
about that?
Can I add something here? I found out in the last 2 weeks. There are certain houses that cannot be reinsured for over $1 million because they are according to the Commissioner of New Mexico, they have to be cleaned up. They're in areas that will not be insured again. So if the house sells, it cannot be insured. I don't know how more to explicitly explain this, but I've called them. The real estate agents are meeting in Santa Fe sometime here, but there are certain areas in Angel Fire that will not be reinsured on houses.
Do we know what those areas are? And
They
what-
are working on it, and we're supposed to be getting, hopefully, I've got to call into them today again because I've got a house that I want to sell. And they're supposed to be working on these areas, and they're supposed to let us know by January 1.
Like January 1, so what's our role as the fire
I
adaptive?
don't know what our role is, but we've got to get the word out to the people who have these houses that want to sell them. They may not be able to sell them if the buyers can't get insurance.
So is
Well,
there
what
a geographic specific area maybe
Need
tied
to know
to?
the area.
There are several, according to the Commissioner of Insurance for the state of New Mexico, and that's what they're working on.
That's
Okay,
scary.
I think we're just gonna have to find out what those areas are and then work with our new ambassador, I suppose, and I think those people ought to be notified somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's our role, I don't know whose role that is.
I don't think.
I don't think
good
it's
that we're-
our role, but I'm just letting y'all know what I have found out.
I think it's good that we're aware of it, Vicky, but there's really not much this committee can do.
I know it.
And the shop talk out there, the golf course shop talk, this is a big conversation this summer
Yeah,
around after we have our rounds of golf. And it seems to me, the consensus is if you have a property that's over $1 million there, they'll insure you for everything but fire. And
No.
that's, well,
No,
that's what we've been told.
they will.
But Vicky, I have friends, other homeowners that have jumped through hoops to get reinsured at 3 or 4 times what they were in the past. And the insurance companies have a variety of, the one that stands out to me is you're within 5 miles of a national forest. Well, unless you live way up on El Camino Real, way up there by Ron Kenny's house, everybody lives within 5 miles of that forest, so they don't need much reason. But it's all in response to the Hermit's Peak, Calf Canyon, end result. So it's a topic out there. I've heard it all summer. I've had people have bought my homes, they've called me to say, what's up? And I go,
well,
sadly,
there is a phone number, and that's the phone number I'm calling. And if you give a house address, they will tell you whether it can be insured depending upon the trees around the house. If it cannot, they say if you clean it up, send them pictures, they'll help you get insurance.
Oh, is that right? So if there is a cleanup, I mean, there's a hoop that these property owners can jump through.
That is right.
Yeah.
Okay,
There'll be
I
a lot
don't
of
know.
homes listed at 999,999.
Yeah, we've already discussed that too.
Well, I don't know what this committee, it's good that we're aware of it because really it's just another incentive for homeowners to.
To clean
spend
up,
And to clean up,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
yes.
Yes.
So I don't think I will add anything here to our, manifesto. Okay,
But I just wanted y'all aware of it. That's,
I'm
that's,
glad.
Oh, we have it right here.
Yeah, it's been in the paper twice.
Yeah.
Is there some other scope items that we should consider adding? And I think I want to clean up some of this wording because it's a little too,
Before we move on,
Yeah.
I just wanted to let everybody know that the resort has reached out to Timothy Vigil. I was trying to figure out exactly what his title is, but I think he's the division director for the New Mexico State Office of he's essentially the superintendent of insurance.
mhm.
So we are reaching out to him and then planning to be in Santa Fe at some point here when the director has time to address this entire issue. Because
Excellent.
obviously the community's gonna grind to a halt if we can't be buying and selling homes and all that kind of stuff. I think it sounds like, at least initially, there's some awareness and interest in addressing the problem. While it's, it was the federal government that lit our state on fire. The state officials are aware that it's a problem that was government made. And so, at least initially, they don't appear to be just washing their hands of it. So I'll obviously keep the committee apprised of how that goes. But right now it's very preliminary, but at least, they're aware of it, so.
wow.
Are you aware, did you read a copy of this article?
I haven't seen that.
I'll give it to you. I've got a copy. There's a California-based company by the name of Zesty.ai. And they are apparently the provider of green, yellow, or red signals based upon satellite photographs that they, when someone puts in an address, they look at it and make arbitrary decisions.
Mhm.
Maybe,
That's correct.
or no. And it's a third party, and this guy did a great job in this.
Let me say something about the insurance situation. Louisiana has the same problem. Insurance companies have pulled out of Louisiana, canceled insurance, refused to write insurance, to the point where the state has now come up with an insurance program, a state program that a person can apply for when he can't get insurance. So New Mexico with wildfire, the problem that we are having, the state of New Mexico might want to look into the same type of situation.
That's correct.
There's a model out of Florida, since I used to live there, I knew about, it's called Citizens. It's a consortium that the state put together. It is expensive.
Oh,
The
yeah.
same is true in California. California did the same thing with the state program after the fires. It exists, but it's quite expensive.
Yeah, I know that, we have an agent in our office that finally got his buyer went. And for him to have insurance on a house, it's gonna cost him $19,000 a year.
Whoa.
Mhm.
Wow.
I will say, as far as the Village of Angel Fire is concerned, the biggest thing that this committee can contribute is gonna be getting a defensible space ordinance
Yes,
to where we have
Yes.
thinning. Understand, though, that that is only part of the calculation of our ISO rating, and I won't speak to it entirely, but the other major hurdle that we're gonna have is fire hydrant.
yeah,
That's water lines and thinning, and if you had to rank order those, the water lines are probably a larger part of the ISO rating problems for us upcoming than thinning is,
yeah.
and a substantial spend. I think the $50 million of water line number has been thrown around at several council meetings, needed to get rid of the 2, 3, 4, and 6-inch runs of line that we have.
Even 6-inch?
I think
Where do we wanna go to?
8 is the minimum. And it is several tens and tens of thousands of linear feet of water line that we're talking about here.
And, yeah, and the depth of it. is
I
not-
believe that's one of the high priority of the CWPP as well.
Yeah,
6-inch or the minimum 8-inch are required in some cases, but always required on a dead end line. And not like a cul-de-sac. So it's not an 8-inch.
Can I suggest that we wrap up the scope if we want to make any other changes to that?
Yeah, is there anything else on the scope?
Yeah, I don't think that the last 2 bullet points are necessary, and they appear to be,
Too wordy.
sort of, they duplicate, the 4th bullet point. The committee's not gonna be,
Right,
communicating related to,
inspections.
yeah, I mean, again, we're advisory, so I think we can
Well-
probably just get rid of those.
I
I
guess the
think so.
question is, where do, and a lot of these are sort of overlapping with that wildfire, I mean, the administrator for, what do you call it? We got the grant for.
The
I
ambassador-
mean,
ambassador-
Are they gonna, I mean, that's a question. I mean, do we supervise that in any way, or we just turn that over? to
No,
the
that's a
fire department?
village. She's a village employee. She's with, the village. So we don't oversee inspection of properties.
Okay,
no,
well, that was in the ambassador coordinator job description, so,
Right, but we're not, the ambassador works for the village, not for
yes,
us.
okay, so we take that one out then, fine.
Yes,
I would also say that any references to grant writing would likely be the responsibility of one of the directors sitting here or the new hire, not the committee.
where is that?
It was in the,
In the
Well,
scope.
it was in the top opening
Yeah,
mission
It
statement.
said
I believe.
assist, I thought, I'm pretty sure it says assist.
Thank you for bringing that up. We'll clarify that so that all we would do is just make
Recommendations,
recommendations.
correct.
Anything that we research, we would hand that over.
In,
Yeah.
number
I'll
one,
clear
you know, it's been the committee that's even found these grants.
Yes.
If we hadn't have notified the city and, you know, like the one that Rocky's working on now, it wouldn't have even occurred. So are we gonna be blind to opportunities and not
No,
recognize
no,
those?
we're just gonna make recommendations. We're not going to write the grants. We're just going to research and bring forth, and the village, Rocky, is the one who actually
Okay,
writes the
So
grants.
is that
We
our
can
role
certainly
to,
help,
to,
Right?
Absolutely.
We can certainly add information and ideas.
As an example, I was answering some grant writing questions for Rocky this afternoon,
Exactly.
but ultimately there is a village employee who will be the one responsible for the grant writing
So,
itself.
so we'll clarify that wording to show that we can just make recommendations,
Exactly.
help in any way. If you want us to do any research or you want us to add anything, we can do that.
Yeah,
So we'll make
there
that.
may be questions that are unanswered that I could run through
There often are in grant writing, right?
Yeah, the
I don't-
more, the more you hear, the better your writing
Right.
can be.
I certainly
Absolutely.
don't want to write another grant. Thankfully,
sure
we
you
got
don't.
Rocky,
Good job on
but you know, if you need input from us, I guess we're willing to give you.
That's what I'll do. I'll clarify that in the mission statement. Desired outcome. Shall we move on to desired outcome?
Go ahead.
Finalized community fuel ordinance, and you know, we're really waiting, Chief Vance, you were going to take that to someone more knowledgeable than we are. Were you able to do anything with that?
Yes, ma'am. I've asked, Captain Romo had a meeting on Friday and he was able to put the word out there through, several of the state foresters, to see if they would give us, some type of evaluation for the village to get one specific to the village. He hasn't been able to get back to me, hasn't gotten a word for that yet, but, we are trying to do that.
Because what we've handed over, and I know Jake's tired of hearing me say that, but what we've handed over, but we need really the experts to look at it. We need that forester to look at it. We need legal counsel to look at it. It's too raw right now. It's,
Understood. We understand the burden that we're carrying. We have seen the language that you passed on that you need clarification on. We are working on getting clarification for that language, but don't want to give you a half-baked response to that language.
I appreciate
So
it.
when we're able to do that, we are actively working on it. We will do that as soon as possible. Also, I have clarification about the slash pickups that you had asked about.
Oh, wow.
Vicky. We are not able to intake slash beyond October 1st.
Okay.
I had misinformation. I apologize for that. Slash is up to, the transfer center is able to take only up to 10-inch stumps. And there will be a fee at approximately $45 per stump that they receive. And they won't take any slash, but they can take pine needles only at approximately $10, $5 a cubic yard.
So pine needles, they are taking no slash
Yes,
Wow,
today.
yes.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Wow, that was fast.
Yeah, it was.
Gee. Okay, so back to desired outcomes. Finalized community fuel ordinance. And then, Mike, you put something in here, potential discount. You know, we did vote, we did discuss this. We were not going to do any sort of discount because we need that wildfire fee from everybody. And
Okay, well,
I'd
take
rather
that
pay
out
the
then. I didn't, I
$26.
couldn't.
I'd rather pay the $26, no matter if I get certified or not.
Okay,
To help other people, to help our fire department, to help our wildland team, because I want our neighbors to do the same thing we're doing. But we are interested in finalizing that fuel ordinance and offering certification, which I think is gonna be real important down the line for insurance companies. And I think that's
Yeah.
something Captain Romo will be involved in, as well as the ambassador. We do need that fuel ordinance, and we do need some, like our fire department and our experts, to look at that rating scale. That rating scale is not something that this committee can set. The rating scale is something that our fire department has to set.
I have some additional information about the rating scale. Does anybody here have greater depth of the history of that one evaluation scale that the fire department possesses? Do you know which one I'm speaking of?
It's the one that's in our, no, it's not in our current fuel ordinance.
There are some red, yellow, and green blocks on that form, and it's a landscape form. Are you familiar with that form?
I've seen it once, but I
Yeah.
haven't.
It is our recommendation that we follow the NFPA standard form. We've taken a look at that frontwards and backwards. And the form that we currently have has some potential issues that automatically start a homeowner off with a lower evaluation score than what we would use. I've asked Captain Romo to evaluate two side-by-side properties, not side-by-side, but two separate properties with both forms. And both of the forms had a favorable outcome of the NFPA form. So he's looking at modifying that and taking a look at maybe combining those, or maybe just using the NFPA. Somebody spent a lot of time and a lot of money developing that form through a national standardized association. So we are more than likely gonna try to
We
not.
don't need to recreate the wheel.
I don't wanna recreate the wheel. Yes,
And so that form would take the place of the one that's in the ordinance.
I believe so. And so it is our mission to get on, Lindsay onboarded. Once she comes on and we get her oriented to the job, to have her able to evaluate homes as well and give ultimately a letter of recommendation for insurance purposes, to evaluate someone's property on that and do that in a swift manner.
Excellent.
So I think we're making good progress.
You are making progress.
Captain Romo has been doing these evaluations for some time. And it's my understanding that the exchange between him and the insurance company always ends up in great job, whatever, but can you give us a letter? So they're expecting a letter with Angel Fire letterhead that gives our evaluation, our professional valuation of our property, and that helps them get insurance.
I think that's going to be a great motivation for property owners.
I will say that there is a difference between the ability to get insurance for a primary home as your primary residence and it being a second property and then another class over $1 million. So if it's your primary home, we don't see or experience a lot of people not being able to insure their primary home that they live in. It's for those rental homes or those properties over $1 million, rental homes that are over $1 million that are much more difficult to insure.
I would imagine so, yeah. Thank you, once again,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you. Wow. Desired outcomes. We would like to raise the percent of property owners. I don't quite understand this. Percent of home property owner contact information documented for wildfire related. Oh, we just want to, I think we need to re-say that, but we want to increase the number of property owners for which we have contact information. Right?
Yes,
And we want to increase the percent of property owners who receive, we just want to increase our communications to property owners. How about that?
one of our goals.
Which is one of our goals. So I think I could put those two together and just put, increase the percentage of property owners that we communicate with about these things. I think that needs to, we need to improve that. And the ambassador, once again, will be doing a lot of that. That'll be just something that we can encourage. We're not in charge of it. Correct, Jake?
Correct. I also might recommend, so there is a council meeting next week that in theory you could load this charter into with a vote, because all of the committees are doing charters and then submitting them up to council. However, because we have a new person starting next week who's gonna be instrumental to this process, I might suggest we give Chief Vance and Lindsay some time to go through. Obviously, they're talking about changing forms. There's gonna be a new person involved. Let's let this marinate with the new staff for a week or two before we just throw it right up to council. In
Okay.
case, as Lindsay is onboarded, or we do change forms, we wanna modify something. I wouldn't hold it for weeks and weeks, but just because of the quirkiness of having a new employee who's gonna be integral to this process, starting the day before this council meeting, I think it makes sense to hold on to it for a little
This
while.
document is what
Yes.
you're talking about. We wouldn't bring that forward and ask for approval until
Let's let Lindsay get in
2 or 3
and
weeks, I would say. It's gonna take a little bit of
I
a,
appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah.
October 29 is the next council meeting.
after next week's.
So we,
So 3 weeks, there's 3 weeks in between.
we can shoot for October 29th.
Okay,
And,
got it, yeah.
if we feel like we're ready. So what I'm gonna do is, all these suggestions you're making, I'm going to make these changes and then send it out to everybody for your eyes to look at again, and then wait, how about that?
Great.
did I hear that right? I'm sorry to interrupt. Did I hear that right? That we're focused on that later date in October to have this finalized and submitted to someone
Yes.
to review so it can be presented at that October 29th meeting or?
Yes, all committee charters are getting pushed up to council for council approval.
On the
Makes sense.
29th?
It depends on when the committees are ready for it, but
Okay,
I don't, because of the new
Think this
person
way.
starting, I would bump your approval date out a couple of 3 weeks, just in the interest of
okay.
sanity.
I think we can wait.
Thank you.
Okay, recommendations, also our desired outcome is to recommend recommendations on village handling or outsourcing / pickup processing. So we're just gonna do the research you know, I know that Charles has talked about, I know we looked at Universal, and I know Charles has some strong opinions about Universal. Am I misspeaking, Charles?
So question again, I'm sorry.
The Universal company, the
Yes,
Parkville?
Universal Waste, they're in
Yes,
Ruidoso.
I know Charles, I don't want to speak for you. You're there, I see you.
Okay.
Just past experiences with them, I would recommend that you talk with the Public Works Director in Sandoval County before you go into anything with them. He'd probably been working with them longer than anybody in the state on their work ethic and everything before you sign a contract. Just a recommendation.
I mean, and so our
Yeah.
job in that regard would just be to make recommendations,
Yes.
to research. If we hear of someone who we think the council would want to think about.
Well, and understand that's going to be a changing process. For this year, the plan is to burn out the pit as much as we can, to start utilizing it here. We opted to not put an RFP out. There are other companies besides Universal. The name of the one in Raton escapes me at the moment, but at some point, what we will be reevaluating is as our intake comes up, we will need to be looking at, you know, what that next step is. But again, where we are in 24, what 25 looks like, I think it's entirely appropriate for that language to remain on the charter, but understand that that is something that we'll probably be evaluating again next year, the year after, to whatever this grows into.
Yes, yes, and I know that Mike talked today a little bit about the fact that maybe as a committee, we can just look and recommend and maybe seek letters from people who might be interested in handling.
Well, let me just.
I know
define-
Mayor Lindsay is interested in that too, that it would be outsourced.
Correct.
Rather than our wildland team, they should be doing other things.
Correct.
They shouldn't be messing with Slash.
Correct, that ultimately whatever waste material is produced by this is we're treating it specifically as waste. We've got to get rid of this somehow, some
Yeah.
way, and that somehow, some way will likely evolve a lot over the next several decades.
Excellent. Yeah, it needs to, I think, if we're gonna be successful. Desired outcome, one town hall meeting per year. This is something that we have talked about from our very first meeting. We still haven't had a town hall. We still haven't had the big to-do.
These years ago, the fire department, and it might have been back when it was all volunteer. But they had a thing, I think, I'm pretty sure it was in our new community center. And it was a Saturday affair, and we had the EMTs there, the fire department, handouts.
Food,
No, I just remember it was
I thought
it was a whole process of
You're correct.
meet the
Correct.
community. This is what we'd like to see around your houses. These, you know, they may even have, it may have been in conjunction with check your blood pressure and
it had
all,
something.
yeah, it was a big deal.
It was
And
a
then-
big thing.
And it was, all the guys were dressed up in their nice uniforms, and some of them were in wildland outfits. All the equipment was up there, kids were crawling around on the trucks. And it was a big community affair, it was in the summer. And that would be my idea, have that. And then this committee could be off to the side with our appropriate
Yeah.
handouts and answering questions or whatever, but for us to host something, you know, or this
Wouldn't
is
make
how,
the same.
this is how I thin my property, this is what, no. We need the experts there. And I apologize for trying to get you out on a Saturday, but
Might I also?
but it was a big deal, and it was well received on a Saturday. And it went from like 10 to 2, and
And lots of videos and photos and
Yeah.
pictures.
Go ahead.
Well, I was also gonna suggest I think doing an event for communication, especially since we'll have a new person on board, makes a lot of sense. Whether the village sponsors this, the other thing I know I saw, I can't remember the name, there's a tree thinning service out of Red River on my street this week. And reaching out to some of those folks to see if they wanna sponsor a booth
Oh,
or
that's a
something.
good
There you
idea.
go.
Because they're ultimately the ones that are gonna be doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the
Yeah.
thinning in the front end.
That's a
Yeah,
good
but
idea.
Getting some of them over here to say, hey, there's work, come participate in our market.
Yeah.
So if we come up with a list of objectives for that type of meeting, we're completely open to that. We already have several PR events that are planned. We'd also like to get more participation for volunteers within the community for the fire department. So we think we can kind of lump all those together. If you guys want to pick a date that works well with maybe our events director or something like that, we're more than happy to participate in that and get the right information out there.
who's your events director?
So I think this is a great idea. I love it. I do think probably shoulder seasons would be an ideal time for this because it's more of a locals issue and we don't want to be competing with the tourism industry too much in an event like this. But I do recommend that you bring Greg Ralph, our tourism director, into this event because he has staff dedicated to putting on events and resources for putting on events. So you guys would get my full support to enlist Greg and his team in helping y'all and all the staff at not just the fire department staff, but Kurt's staff and other staff to put on an event like this. We'd be all behind it.
That's excellent.
The
These
Santa Fe
shoulders-
wildfire shelter or something like that. They're the ones that get funded by the government to help, villages like ours. And they have a lot of material that they could help present too.
It'd be not, we don't want to compete with things going on for tourism, but it'd be nice to get people who are just here part-time to understand.
In second thought, I think you're right.
Yeah, and the other thing, the number one issue we have here, when we have guests come in from out of town, they want that bonfire out in their backyard. And that's just not gonna work in our world.
No.
And if we had this in June, when it's dry, and we advertised and got the word out, you can run your grill and you can have a little fire thing on your patio with the propane tank, but to go out and build a fire in your yard, that's just not, that's a tick, tick, tick time bomb ticking. So
It's not
we want to
kosher.
educate our Texas friends, our property owners from Texas, because they think they come here and they don't realize how dry it is and
No,
how,
still dry, even after the summer.
Martha, there was, I'm sorry, last council meeting, the events team has a pretty aggressive calendar they put together.
Oh,
It's 3 pages, I think. So if we could grab you a copy of that and start looking at what are the off weekends for
Okay.
them that are still in summer, I
good.
think you could probably find a workable solution in there pretty quickly.
I like
Okay.
the idea of change.
June is perfect.
That's when even people who are majority timers
are back, they're back.
Okay, can we come back to this and finish
Yeah.
what we're doing
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah,
if
can
I
we-
could just make a suggestion. I think there's two good opportunities that I could think of, and I don't think it necessarily needs to be in the summer. But one is in the spring, one's in the summer. They have springtime, they have a membership weekend. Resort does. A lot of people come up for that, right? There's no reason why discussion about being firewise can't be had in the spring. But also, is it in June when Apple Board,
Yeah, the annual meeting's at the end of June.
the annual meeting,
Yeah.
so if it could coincide with either of those, that's when a lot of property owners.
Yeah, I know the board is is certainly in favor of it. The only issue with that meeting
Yes.
is that, it's it's a 5-minute hard stop.
Yeah, it is.
Because otherwise we lose people, but I'm sure we can accomplish an awful lot in those 5 minutes. At least the current board, was agreeable to that, a few months ago.
Where's the physical location?
That's at the resort, the lodge.
We were-
The garden court.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were
right.
there.
Yeah,
We were there.
So it doesn't have to be the same weekend as Apple, but usually most of the summer guests are here by that out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty well-attended event.
Yeah,
So,
and so we could do the next weekend or, you know,
no, I'm saying, I think we can incorporate
We
it
could do
into that.
Sunday.
oh, sure.
Yeah.
Looking like, the
But-
21st?
I'm not really sure. It's
Guys,
usually
we-
the last Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
no,
We
I
need to
agree.
move on.
Yeah, we do.
Can we
Yeah,
go
we
back
do.
to this thing here, desired outcomes? I'm gonna clean up this percent thing, these lines. One town hall meeting, yes. Mike, I don't understand water line. You just wrote water line.
Sorry,
Desired- You wrote water line. That's really not facts area.
I don't see
That's-
that. Where is that?
I would say.
It's under desired out-
Infrastructure designed to maximize, fire prevention and the ability to fight fires in the village of Angel Fire.
Instead of water line, okay.
Yeah, because it's more than water line.
So make suggestions, say that again, Brett.
I would- Let's say infrastructure designed to maximize fire prevention and, firefighting within the village of Angel Fire.
Section, okay.
Okay, could I, could I do
We're
a time check here? We're obviously, I don't think we're gonna get through the rest of this now. We have 2 or 3 other items to cover.
We're almost through. Can we-
Okay,
can
keep
we
going,
just-
keep
Can
going.
we move down to reporting plan? Monthly minutes, that's how we do it, monthly minutes. Annual status report on progress made and semi-annual status report on items listed in desired outcomes. Anybody wanna, I think that's a good way for us to report. And, interrupt me if you need to. Supporting resources. Angel Fire Resort, is a supporting resource, providing names, addresses, contact information. Other sources would include funding received from grants obtained that relate to recommendations in the CWPP. There might be some grants that help support some of the town halls and things that we're doing.
I just want to clarify on the resort there.
Oh,
We
please.
haven't agreed to provide those names. We've agreed to communicate to those folks.
Okay, has agreed to communicate. Okay, good, thank you.
And the same listing is through the Angel Fire Water Department.
We already have that information. We've obtained that. So that part of it is done, thanks to Rocky. And the job of the ambassador coordinator, once we get the resort information, is obviously do a consolidation of those 2 lists.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I'll change that, Mark.
yep,
Okay.
no problem.
And when I send it out, check it, make sure it's right. AIM grant for ambassador, a full-time, I don't understand that. Supporting resources. Oh, the ambassador is a supporting resource.
Let me comment on that. And the grant we have is for a year, so we're good through next October. But there is a renewal process for another year. And there are reports that they are going to require and to help decide whether or not we get that next year. So we just need to be mindful of that.
Rocky, are you mindful of it?
I'm very mindful of that.
Rocky's super mindful. Okay, and then personnel, I don't understand this. Okay, that must go with the AIM grant. Okay, never mind on that. Okay, I'm gonna make these changes that you all have recommended. I'll make them in blue or something so that you can see them. And then send back your comments. And then we'll hold it until October 29th, and maybe later, we'll wait for Lindsay and
Manager Weir has a comment.
manager.
I'm not sure if I didn't hear this or if it's not included, but along with your reporting requirements, I'd really like.
I froze.
A, monthly, at least quarterly verbal update at a council meeting. And I know you're recording things in your minutes,
Yeah,
but keep in mind, council meeting is your chance to, it's not about the council as much as it's about the public. That's a public meeting, it's recorded, people go watch it after the fact. you want the public to know what y'all are doing
Okay,
and that y'all are out there working.
okay. So a monthly or quarterly report to council.
And would some of that be covered through the ambassador's report possibly?
He's asking,
No,
he's
this
asking
is
for
staff.
someone
Okay,
to come to a council meeting, because we have, at the beginning of council meetings, there's a staff report and a
Right.
committee's report
right,
section.
right,
And
right.
he would like to see more participation in that committee's report
I
section.
think that's good.
And because the ambassador is gonna be doing the ambassador's work,
Yes,
I want your committee to stand out separate from that, because even though you're highly involved in that work, you're still an operating committee of the village, and you're doing real work, and the public needs to know what y'all are doing, and that y'all are out there, and
that makes sense to me.
it could help y'all with recruiting in the case that you have turnover in committee members.
Good.
Excellent.
Could I add
Okay,
one
so
item? I
now-
know we're running out of time, but
Well,
regarding this
Steve-
document, I had a conversation with the mayor today, and that followed a discussion that David Hartson there had with the mayor regarding
Yeah.
that whole topic that we included in this about the outsourcing of Slash. And he sees that as a likely, need in the future. No time given as Jake mentioned, but I guess I wanted to entertain the thought of a work session to begin that discussion.
To begin
Framework,
what discussion?
I'm sorry,
To begin what discussion? I'm not.
the topic of potential outsourcing of the Slash pickup and disposal process. And that could be the minimum of just identifying potential vendors and a statement of interest that we could put together to get not a bid, but identification of potential parties that could, provide that input in the future. And again, I agree, it's not going to happen overnight, but if we don't start now, it's just kicking the can down the road, I think.
We need to have a work session in order to write a letter.
Well, to discuss the process, and again, it could start with a letter of intent of what the background, the current situation, volumes, is this something that you and your organization would have an interest to work with us on? And that kind of thing. There is actually a RFP, RFQ from a community up in Colorado that I have a copy of, that they did the exact same thing. That could be, something to look at. I'm not saying we would follow it letter by letter.
Can we get a little more information about what the point of the work session would be before we set a work session?
It
I
would
think we
be
need-
to discuss the potential activities to be performed by an outsourcer, the kind of equipment that they would probably need, their experience in doing the same kinds of things, and looking at this draft RFP that it's being evaluated right now by a smaller town, very similar to us up in Colorado.
Okay, so, could you put all that into writing and
I
then?
can.
And then we can set a work session maybe in November?
I would suggest in October.
Well, I'm just thinking about Vicky and just everybody here who may need a little more lead time.
Well,
And that
let
would
me
give us
tell you
all
another
time.
reason. Okay, we've already talked about this, and I know we're out of time, so I guess we need to end the discussion.
Mark has to go.
Okay, I understand.
I would say that I just feel like we don't have enough,
Completely sidetracked.
yeah, we got sidetracked so many times.
Yeah. Sorry. I got told.
Okay, bye, Mark, thank
All
you.
right. Good evening.
So Randy,
I'll send out a notice to everybody about what I recommend.
Yeah,
And-
I mean.
I can always try and trade shifts with somebody. I
Okay,
can do what I can try and do here on this end.
and is
Okay.
the,
And again, I'm not saying that because it's my recommendation, although it is, but it's the mayor's recommendation that this be addressed.
Be us, and we'd have a recommendation to council based on what we talked about. I don't,
Okay,
that SLASH program is actually up and running and compared to just 3 or 4 years ago, but it wasn't. I don't understand, but I do also understand that
I won't speak for the mayor, but my guess here is that the process that we saw in Ruidoso, eventually this process is gonna make enough material that outsourcing that material somehow, some way, whether it's universal waste or something, makes sense. I don't know that those comments were meant to be for 2024 or 2025, but long-term, sure.
Is Universal Waste who does Ruidoso?
Yes. They used to be called Sierra Contracting, but they were acquired within the last year or so by Universal Waste is a much larger company out of California. They have probably 15 plus sites across 8 states. And they are both in the metal waste business, the actual household waste business. What they do primarily for Ruidoso is they take all of their SLASH. They also do metal down there. as
Okay,
well.
so are we going to set a work session? You want it sooner than November, you want it in October so that we can start.
Well, the reason I'm suggesting October is there's this $300,000 grant that we've already been talking about that we're not going to do. We already agreed that. But there's some of these same organizations that we're talking about is preparing to prepare that for that grant, okay? And I think those are two very related. I mean, the proposal is not due to December 15th. If a potential entity that would pick up this 30-ton requirement for Chevron knew that there was a potential future opportunity to outsource, I think that would be very helpful for them in thinking about the future, which I agree is in 25. I'm not saying it's this year.
Okay, so how do we feel about having a work session and when would we have the work session?
well, we already talked about having a work session with our ambassador to finalize
Yes.
wording.
so what are we thinking about?
Where are we gonna have
I
that?
thought she's just gonna look at it
Oh,
and weigh in. She's just gonna weigh in. We're not work session.
Okay,
That's not a work session.
Commissioner Crane, do you have a list by any chance of the companies that do this kind of work?
So the only
We-
two
we
that
have-
I'm aware of,
We've identified 2 or 3 with Naomi Engelman that's working this as well. So, I mean,
the only two that I'm aware of are Universal Waste and Timber. I can't remember the Rotellum. We met the gentleman.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name. It's the wood
Yes.
processor in
Western
Western Wood Products.
Western Wood.
There you go.
That's right.
Yeah.
there's that
Those are
one,
the only
and
two that
there,
I'm aware of.
there is a rancher up by UU Bar Ranch, very large ranch that is getting into thinning, and they've got a consultant, and they're wanting to process biochar for Chevron as well. And they may be an answer for that future, but they've got the equipment. They've expressed some interest just in the discussion. I'll say that.
No, we're running out of time here and most of us have other things we have to do.
Yeah,
Are we going to set a work session? And when?
I know that pretty much I don't work the office the 3rd week of October,
Okay,
so
so
I'm
the
pretty
third,
much free.
okay, the 3rd week of October, anybody have their calendar open?
Yes.
I have a once in a lifetime Oryx hunt for veterans and I won't be here the 3rd week of October, but
Oh,
feel
okay.
free.
Okay,
That's all right. I can, like I said, I
No,
can.
3rd week of October is okay, because we're not gonna be talking about stuff that.
Yeah.
well,
So my wife is out of town that week. I'll have my boys home all week. Depending upon the time you pick, I may be able to make it, I may not.
What about October 9th, A week from today. We said we needed a week advance notice, October 9th.
Are we talking about the 14th week on a Monday or the 21st week?
Let's,
Third week, because this is
let's do this.
not a full week, but this is the first week of October.
Okay, the week of the 21st, how about that? How
What?
about the 22nd? Is that a Tuesday?
It is a Tuesday.
That is a Tuesday. I'm free. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the fourth week I'm free.
Okay, so. Okay.
Let me ask
Okay.
again, is
Wait,
October
wait, wait,
9th?
hold up. Are we let's try to meet the fourth week. When does that start, Dave?
And
26th.
I'm free.
Hey.
If he wants to do October 9th, I'm free there too.
So let's try the 22nd. Rocky, is there anything scheduled the 22nd of October? Rocky's gonna
I
check.
don't believe so, because I'm gonna be out all that week, so, yeah,
Okay. The
22nd, if you guys wanna meet,
Okay, can we still work with the Zoom?
I can set it up and everything,
You
yes.
can set it up. Okay, let's do the 22nd of October. And what is the best time of the day that you all would like to have a work session?
I'm open from 10 to 4, whatever.
Okay, so,
I can't make, I mean, this is just me and you
Yeah.
guys can do without me.
how about 2 o'clock?
I don't see this work session happening without you.
2
I don't
o'clock.
either.
I go through cancer radiation treatment every morning from now through the middle of November. I can do
Okay,
any
Mike.
afternoon, but can't do morning.
Mike, how about 2 o'clock on the?
That'd work.
26th? Okay. Okay, Rocky's gonna check the calendar, and that's where we're gonna leave it. Are we gonna continue with I mean, most of us have other things we have to do right now. This was supposed to be 4 to 5, and it's like 4 to 6.
I've got to go and finish up what I've got to do.
Okay,
Okay, so shall we hold these items? Okay,
we'll review this and finalize it and then open the discussion, which I'll give you a recommended agenda for that discussion on outsourcing.
excellent, excellent. Okay, Rocky's gonna check this time, the 22nd, 2 o'clock work session. Mike, you're gonna provide,
It's good.
okay, it's good. You're gonna provide, some structure for that, right, Mike?
Yes,
So that we all, and you're gonna send that out ahead of time so we can all
Yes.
be prepared. Excellent.
okay,
All
thank
right.
you, everyone.
Kurt,
6:08.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Kurt. Thank you for coming. It was exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah. Like 5 and morning rather in. And my first wound, big hair, old hair.
And I know that.
Yeah, 2 issues.
I know.
One of them doesn't have anything to do.
I know.
The water meters are.
I don't know about the other.
Second. Okay, hold on a second. Are we through with this meeting?
Yeah.